Susy Schoneberg, hello. We are here live at the AirCargo 2020 conference, and I'm so excited to be able to have an opportunity to talk with Susy, head of Flexport.org. You know, you last night, you spoke at the women's event here at the AirCargo. How did that go? What was that about?
It was about how to empower women in logistics, but also how we can increase our environmental impact as an industry. And I was really happy to see so many brilliant women, but also men in one room discussing how we can lead our companies in a social and environmental conscious way.
Wow, that's fantastic, and I'm glad that men were invited too to support the mission. It's a noble cause as well as many of the things that you're doing. So for clarification, Flexport.org, you're the head of Flexport.org. It is a part of Flexport.com, right? So can you tell us, first of all, give us the overview. What does Flexport.com do? And then how did that give birth to Flexport.org?
Absolutely. Flexport is the modern freight forwarder. So we help companies to move their freight, finance it, but also to analyze and optimize their supply chain. So we are a company that brings together expertise, technology, but also the infrastructure to really move your goods efficiently. We realize that it's really important for many companies to also think about their social and environmental impact. So Flexport.org helps companies to use logistics as a positive force for social and environmental good, and to make the processes really easy and affordable.
Wow. So Flexport.com had been doing a lot of these logistic operations. I guess you had the infrastructure, and then that inspiration came. Where did the inspiration come from? Whose idea was Flexport.org?
I think it's the idea of many employees at Flexport.org, and I was lucky to kind of take the reign to kind of bring this program into life. So it started by a few employees meeting for lunch every 2 weeks and actually thinking about what can we do as a company to really have an impact. And this is also going back to my personal experience. I have been a counselor for traumatized children for 6 years. And while I was doing the work, I realized that my impact is very limited to one-on-one engagements. And there are only so many people I can talk to during one day. And for many people, I'd work with them over years, which further limits the amount of people I can reach. And when I did research about how can I actually increase my impact, it turned out that logistics is a key in doing so. Do you know why?
Well, in doing a little bit of research, I'm kind of starting to see, but that is a great question. Educate us, tell us why.
So there are two reasons why logistics and transportation is extremely powerful. Mm-hmm. So maybe we start with the environmental one. The majority, or a big part of global carbon emissions, actually comes from logistics. If shipping alone, so ocean freight, would be a country, it would be the 6th largest polluter in the world, emitting more emissions than my home country, Germany. So that's massive. And we know, for other big sources of carbon emissions like electricity, we can use renewables. For cars, right, that also use a lot of CO2, we will have electric vehicles. But what about all those big planes and ships? So by 2050, it's estimated that 40% of carbon emissions will come from logistics. So if you want to have a really big impact, logistics, it's where it's at. And
so it's still on the rise in terms of being a big emitter of carbon.
Correct.
Right.
And then the second aspect that we were looking at is humanitarian aid and economic development. Yes. We know that trade is one of the big contributors to economic development. One of the few topics that economists actually agree upon, that trade really helps to lift people out of poverty.
Right.
However, if we look at aid organizations, they spend 60 to 80% of their total budget on buying goods and bringing them to the people in need. That's a lot of money. Imagine companies, they only spend 5 to 10% maybe of their budget on logistics.
Yeah.
So if we could help them to make this more efficient, we could unlock billions of dollars to actually help them to reach more people in need. And then lastly, many companies occur excess inventory. It might be returns. Maybe the production was not perfect. And today, many goods end up in the landfills or being burned because it's really complicated to figure out for companies where to put their goods to kind of make good. And we also make this process easier.
Yeah, I mean, as I understand, China quit taking the U.S.'s garbage alone, and now it's piling up all in all kinds of places. That alone is a supply chain type of problem that you're talking about. I mean,
Correct.
so it's a very powerful social mission, humanitarian as well as the sustainability, environmental aspect of things. But in the end, of course, the .org part of Flexport does contribute to the bottom line of the .com, right? Can you unpack that a little bit? How do those two work in tandem in the way that they do?
Absolutely. I definitely believe, it has to be sustainable for a company to do good. Otherwise, why would you do more of it? And what we have seen is that companies are really being asked by their consumers, by their investors, or even by regulators to report on their social and environmental impact. And because we can help them to do so, and again, make it really easy and affordable, right? So they oftentimes can save money. It's one of the reasons why they work with Flexport. So we see clients that engage in our Flexport.org programs. They tend to stay longer with us as a company. They're also really successful. And even for all of our employees, it's really meaningful to work at a company who does more than just help to get boxes from A to B.
It makes so much sense. I mean, lots of companies talk about having, what's your mission, what's your vision, what's your story? Well, it sounds like this is quite a mission. It's fantastic. I'm glad that it gives you a lot of meaning and purpose. What's your background? I mean, have you always been in the supply chain, or what led you to your interest in these aspects?
So I mentioned earlier that during high school, I was a counselor for traumatized children. So I definitely saw that there is, help needed around us, so you don't have to look far away to find people in need. And then what stood out to me studying economics is just the power of trade, right? How it advances economies, how important it is to connect people. And so I was early on interested in logistics, and my first job out of college was actually at a freight forwarder. So I always have been, one of the rare people who was really deeply interested in understanding logistics, understanding the mechanics, and helping companies and entrepreneurs to build successful businesses.
Wow. Well, fantastic. It's really dovetailing. I think you guys recently, you held your first user conference. What was it? Forum 19? Forward 19. And you had over 300 people attend. You were addressing a lot of the technology and issues and the things that we think about with transparency in the supply chain, the .com part of things. But you also had the social part of it too. Could you tell us a little bit about that conference and just what was discussed related to the environment and some of the social responsibility type of issues?
Absolutely. So basically, this is a conference where we bring together partners, but also clients, also just like companies that are interested in learning more about logistics and the services we provide to actually discuss issues. So it's very hands-on. It's workshops. You have all of our experts and specialists that can talk you through issues, and even companies that realize that they have kind of common problems. We know that the tariffs have been a big topic last year, so we had a lot of discussions around the tariffs, but we had also a lot of discussions about the future and forward-looking, and this is where environmental and social responsibility came up. So we invited one of our nonprofit partners, Medshare, who actually shared their day-to-day and how logistics has been a big bottleneck in the past for them to reach people in need, and how the goods that companies might consider excess for them can actually help to save lives. And one thing I would like to highlight is a lot of the work that Flexport.org does is very related to kind of the core assets and core activities of Flexport. So providing visibility, meaning where your aid relief container is and what is in it, literally saves lives, right? Imagine you have volunteers on the ground, and it really depends if food is arriving or maybe clothes, how you really organize your distribution and to make sure that people get help as fast as possible.
Did a new fund emerge out of the what happened there?
Yeah, so basically what we have seen is there are two bottlenecks that still exist.
Okay.
One is after disaster, you have to move quickly, right? So last year in Mozambique, there was a cholera outbreak. If you have cholera, you die within 2 or 3 days if you're untreated. I had cholera myself, and I can assist. It's true. You have like a couple hours. And oftentimes,
How did you get it?
That's a long story.
Oh, okay. And
we can talk about this another time.
Okay.
But let's say I have first hands-on experience.
It's painful.
Very. And frightening, right? Because you realize. So the good thing is I'm not afraid of dying anymore.
Wow.
Because
it was that close to a near-death experience?
Yeah, but also very motivated, right? Because I got lucky because I had resources at this time, at hand that saved my lives where other people might not have.
Right.
So imagine a disaster hits. Nonprofits first have to kind of collect funds, and then they can go to a freight forwarder, an airline, to kind of bring the goods. We closed this financial gap by immediately being able to provide help with the Flexport.org fund, where everyone can contribute. The second gap that we're addressing is oftentimes when you don't speak about a disaster anymore, so let's say the Bahamas, this is actually where a lot of help is needed. In the beginning, right, you search for people. You don't need mattresses when everything is still 3 feet underwater, but you might need it months later. And so we help to surface the need and potential to do good and also fund those shipments.
And the timing of the needs, it sounds like, too, a different kind of supply chain thing. I understand that you guys work with gigantic companies, but you also assist these smaller companies in being able to do work on their supply chains, and that sounds like what you're referring to.
Yeah, and what's great is everyone can. We love to help everyone get started. So maybe it's the first thing you're looking at, and maybe you realize that the transportation is a big part of your footprint, and we help you to set up your program.
Yeah.
But if you are a company that did a lot of social impact work in the past, we can also support you to bring your programs to the next level. And even if you're not working with Flexport, you can still access the Flexport.org services. So even if we don't manage your shipments, if you want me to calculate your carbon emissions, I'm very happy to do so. So the big invitation to everyone, I believe it needs a network of different organizations in the transportation industry and beyond to work together.
For humanitarian
but
aid.
Also for carbon emissions, right? If you don't know how to calculate the emissions for your shipments, I will do it for you.
Well, tell us a little bit about that. What's you've talked about the Flexport's carbon neutral LCL boxes. What's that about? What's the goal and mission behind that?
So for us, it was really important to lead by example and not only to ask our clients or give them the opportunity to offset carbon emissions, but also do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And so LCL is a great product because you help to consolidate product and therefore reduce carbon emissions. We have seen that there are still a lot of containers that are only 67% full. And so we can increase utilization and therefore, decrease kind of the carbon emissions that way. And we wanted to incentivize clients that use the product by offsetting the emissions on their behalf.
And is there a deadline for when you want everything to be working, or is it already operational?
Oh, we launched this in June 2018.
And it's happening.
Yes, it's already happening.
It's all happening right now.
So we have been doing this for a while, and last year we made all of our disaster relief shipments carbon neutral as well. Social and environmental issues are very connected, right? Many people in poverty live in areas that are really vulnerable to environmental change. Yeah. And that's why all of our disaster relief shipments are carbon neutral as well.
Wow, making it all happen, practicing what you preach. I know that you are doing a lot of partnerships, and you recently announced one with Medshare. What's that? What are they about, and how does that partnership look?
What I love about Medshare is that they're also an organization that tries to match surplus product to needs. So they take a lot of medical supplies from hospitals, but also manufacturers, and bring it to people in need. And one container full of medical supplies can provide healthcare for 12,500 people.
Wow, that's powerful.
So it's really great, the work that they're doing. They oftentimes operate in areas where there isn't a lot of infrastructure. So they really benefit from our discounted services. So for every shipment for a good cause, we will support the organizations and make it more affordable for them.
Yeah.
We also provide pro bono supply chain advice. Sometimes we have to sit together, Medshare, and ask to figure out how do we actually get a shipment to the people in need in really remote areas.
So you like their mission so much that you're literally partnering with them.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that does bring up a question. It's like, so in the U.S. this year, I guess we didn't have a lot of these, a whole lot of hurricane season. We kind of avoided a lot of natural disasters. I'm sure that I'm simply being a little ethnocentric and not aware of some of the disasters that did happen because you have this global, approach to things. But like if a person was just trying to, the disaster relief, it's very complex. And I bet just your normal person doesn't understand the supply chain that gets disrupted when trying to do disaster relief or recovery. How can just your average person say, participate and be a part of disaster relief recovery?
So there are many different ways.
Okay.
One way would be donations are always helpful, right? So find an organization that you can just support. With the Flexport.org fund, we can also highlight projects, right? And tell you can fund a container or a really important shipment to help people in need.
So this gives us ideas beyond just the Red Cross.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
And it's very tangible, right? We tell you exactly, look, this container or shipment needs to be funded. It will help this many people.
Oh.
We worked with the nonprofit on the receiving end. So we really make sure that the goods we are shipping, that you basically enable, will also reach people in need. Because 60% of all the donated goods that are being sent to disaster site can actually not be used. Imagine, over half of all the goods we pay for and that we ship cannot be used immediately.
Okay.
And so we connect really the receiving party and the companies that are sending goods.
Wow. Is this your first time at the AirCargo conference?
Yes.
Oh, really? Us too. And it's really fun.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And I'm very grateful just to be here and have the opportunity to talk to you today.
It connects, we connect a lot of dots here. I'm meeting so many different kinds of people in logistics. It's been really interesting. Do you have any more of a message that you're trying to, are you listening to some clients here, or is it more about hey, I'm trying to spread the message of Flexport.org?
I'm definitely here to learn. It's always great to have conversations. And I strongly believe that we as a network have to come together. So it's shippers, it's carriers, right? And it's companies like Flexport that by working together, they can make an impact. But it's also companies, like FreightWaves that actually provide information and data, right? That really help us to see where help is needed to really make this more efficient.
Fantastic. Are you going to get out here and hear some good music here in Nashville?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm a big music fan. So just walking along Broadway and listening, to all the singers.
You've come to the right place.
My place to be.
All
Absolutely.
right. Great to have you, Susy. Susy Schoneberg, Flexport.org. How do they reach out to you to get a little bit more information?
Find me on Twitter or LinkedIn. There's also a Flexport.org website. And I would say no matter who you reach out to at Flexport, you will get information. And again, you don't even have to be a Flexport client. My mission is to make it easy for you to do good.
Wow, I love it. It's a great message. And this is a wrap for today at the AirCargo 2020 conference. We will see you at 9:30 Central Time tomorrow. That's 10:30 Eastern Time for y'all trying to keep up doing the math there. And by the way, 8:30 Mountain Time.